Hey guys, Jacob here. This is another 1.8.3 build video for The Division. This is going to be going over my new Final Measure build I decided to throw together. I haven't made a Final Measure build video yet. I made a hybrid a while back, but this is going to be going over the full Final Measure, and this is going to be my PvP version of it. I'll get right into it so you guys can see that I'm running the full 6-piece Final Measure with the house and the lightweight M4 and the blue pistol as always. First, I'm going to go over the set bonuses so you guys know what they are. If you're new to the game, then you may not know what they are, so I'm going to go over them now. First off, set bonus 2 is 25% exotic damage resilience, and that's from stuff like burn, the predator bleed, distortion resistance, stuff like that. Set bonus 3 is 15% protection from elites, like the yellow enemies that are constantly hitting you in the DZ and being a pain in the ass, like Midtown. Set bonus 4, which has always been here. This is the original set bonus before they were classified gear sets. When in range of a hostile grenades or mortars, defuse them and add grenades to your inventory. This can only happen once every 8 seconds. So when someone throws a grenade at you, you can catch this and defuse it, and it goes in your inventory. Same goes for clear skies. If you're having trouble doing that mission for the mortars, I recommend using this build, or at least have someone in your team using this. That way you can disarm the mortars that are constantly hitting you and being a pain in your ass. Set bonus 5, which are the new set bonuses for the classified gear set that were added a while back. 50% exotic damage resilience and 15% protection from elites. So you get even more EDR for stuff like the Predator and stuff like the flame turrets, shock, all that stuff. That way it's not hitting you as much, and especially since everybody's running Predator in this patch, this is something really nice to have on the gear set. That way it doesn't affect you as much. Now the main thing, which is set bonus 6, which is improved final measure. When a grenade is defused, the player and all group members within 30 meters gains a buff based on the grenade type that was defused. For example, EMP and shock, skill power increased by 40% for 8 seconds, fragmentation or incendiary, weapon damage increased by 40% for 8 seconds, and flashbang and tear gas. Armor is increased by 40% for 8 seconds. So if you're constantly getting grenade spam, this is a really good build to have on your team. That way you can just consume the grenades and constantly give your team a buff. Like it says, armor, damage, or skill power. So if someone in your group is running a pulse and you catch a grenade that is an EMP or a shock, that will increase their pulse and you can actually hit players a lot harder. That's about it for the set bonuses. So I'll get into the weapons now. The weapon I'm using on this build is the House. Has a pro red sight with crit damage, stability, crit chance, extended mag with crit chance, rate of fire, and magazine size, a small grip with crit damage, stability, and optimal range, a loud vent break with crit damage, headshot damage, and crit chance. Like I said, this is a PvP, so you're going to have as much crit chance as you can on your SMG and crit damage. Like have max crit damage on these, the loud vent break, and the pro red sight. And your grip, you're going to have 19, maybe 20 if you have those legacy mods from the older game, or back before they really took those out of the game. But some people save them, so if you have those, I'd recommend using those instead. Now, the weapon talents that are on the gun, which is Deadly, Vicious, and Card Counter. I don't really use Vicious on SMGs that much, but I decided to use it on this mostly because I wanted to test it out, because I'm constantly using Deadly and Responsive. So I just decided to throw this on here and test it out, and it's been working really well. So if you want to use Deadly and Responsive, you can, but I'm using Deadly and Vicious mostly to have a high crit chance and hit players a little bit harder. And our Responsive is pretty damn good, but this is mostly just for testing purposes at the moment, and you can use the other one if you'd like. The weapon damage is 19.9. The RPM, as you can see, is standard plus the magazine, so you're hitting at 897, and you're getting almost a max magazine size if you have 120. Now the secondary I'm using is the lightweight M4 with 17.6 base damage, responsive, unforgiving, and deadly. This is mostly a backup weapon, or if someone's from a distance, I can hit them with this, and that it's, you know, rifle, obviously you can hit longer ranges with this weapon, and you don't have to get up close to someone. The weapon mods I'm using are a pro red sight with crit damage, headshot damage, and crit chance, extend mag with crit chance, magazine size, and rate of fire, an angled grip instead of a grip with crit damage on it, because I want to mostly have this weapon to hit people from a distance. So you're getting that 13% extra stability, the 4.50% optimal range, and you're still getting a little bit of crit damage. You're not getting a lot, but you still get that extra 4%. It's better than none, so you're still getting a little bit, but you're not getting the 19. Now the FD suppressor with crit damage, crit chance, and headshot damage. You could use a loud vent break if you'd want to, but Me personally, I like using suppressors at the moment because I don't know why, it's just a preference, but I like my lava vent brakes on my SMGs and my suppressors on my ARs. Now I'll get into the last weapon, which isn't really important, but it's nice to note. This is a cool-headed and determined pistol with 16.4. This is a blue pistol, and I'm going to tell you guys this now. A lot of people ask me why I have the blue pistol. That's to get the weapon requirements or the talents a little bit lower. On the sawed-off shotgun, you can see that it's 2,000 and 3,000 and 2,000, 4,000, 2,000. These are really high requirements for some of these talents. For example, like Determined is really high electronics. It's not too hard to unlock it on this build, but other builds that have high firearms, these are in the 1,000s, as you can see, and they're really easy to get on a pistol, but it's really hard to get them combined. So if you get a blue pistol, like if you craft it over and over and over again, I think it took me at least maybe 50 tries to craft this gun to get Determined on it, then roll cool-headed. So that way you can get your ult way faster than using something like this, which has Determined on it, which this is good for PvP if you're fighting players and you smack them all on the ground. But I've been using this a lot more since I don't really have time to change to my sawed-off shotgun and smack someone since I'm fighting someone. But if you're running away and you get a good distance and there's NPCs, you can shoot them in the head and get a cooldown by 5%. And if you kill them, like a red bar, you'll get Determined proc and your cooldowns even faster. Now I'll get into the gear pieces. I'm using the Final Measure Best, obviously. Roll for stamina, health, exotic damage resilience, and 56% ammo capacity. You could have something like skill haste instead of EDR, but the EDR is really nice since this is a high EDR gear set, so you can have as much EDR as you want, and that will protect you from stuff like the Pred Bleed or burning. Now the weapon talents, or my bad, the weapon mods I'm using are the firearms crit chance mods for all those crits. You could use stamina if you'd really like to, or you could flip these with electronic mods for skill power, but like I said, this is a PvP version at the moment, so I'm just using crit chance mods. Now the mask is rolled for crit chance, damage to elites and firearms, with a stamina crit chance mod as well. The knee pads are rolled for bleed, shock, burn, with crit damage and stamina. These are minor attributes or what you really want. You want bleed, shock, and burn, since people are constantly putting you on bleed, people are using shock turrets, and people are also using flame turrets. So if you can get these minor attributes on all your knee pads, then I think that's what you should have on all of them, because they're really good minor attributes, because everybody's using those things pretty damn often. The mod on this is a stamina crit chance mod and a pulse crit damage mod. Now the backpack, which is a little bit different. I'd like to have a stamina or a firearms backpack, but currently this is the only backpack I have. So I'm using it, and I'm making my way around it to use a few things that can combine together to make this build pretty decent, just with the backpack being a little bit different. It still has 9% crit damage on it, rolled for electronics, and 53% ammo capacity. The firearms crit chance mod is on this as well, and the 2 pulse crit damage mods for the pulse, which I'll get into in a second. The gloves are rolled for firearms, crit damage, crit chance, and SMG damage. If you want to use an AR like the lightweight M4 or a G36 or even a Bullfrog, just roll it to assault rifle damage and you'd be good. Now the holster is rolled for crit chance and all attributes, and the mod is a pulse crit damage mod. Now I'm going to get into the abilities. Right now I'm using the Pulse Scrambler, which is the Conceal Pulse for the extra crit damage and crit chance. You're probably wondering why I have crit damage mods, and that's because I'm already running Vicious, so I'm hitting over 60% crit chance as is. So I want to hit a little bit harder, so I threw crit damage mods instead. If you have tons of people using, say, ARs in your group, I guess you could use crit chance and give them a little bit more crit chance on their AR, since it's not on the AR, and they'll probably need that a little bit more. But I'm using crit damage since everybody in my group usually uses an AR or an SMG when we're at close quarters. The next thing I'm using is the booster shot. The heal on this is pretty shitty, 59,000. If you have a little bit more electronics, or if you just want to use it, you can use the self-heal and heal yourself a little bit more. But 90% of the time I run this build, I'm with a team, and we usually have a reclaimer or some kind of healer that has a box that can keep you alive. So I recommend using the booster shot for a little bit more damage. And also, if you're in a tight situation, you can hit this and increase your damage and burn someone down. Another thing I'm not currently running, which is very important, which is the immune station. If someone else in your group is using a pulse that's stronger than this, you can flip a few pieces around like the mods and use the immune station. That way people won't be hitting you with bleed as much and pissing you off and constantly getting on your nerves from the Pred Bleed. Or if they're using a flame turret, you can throw this down and it will block the effects from those things. builds like the Pred Bleed and the Flame Turret. Now the talents on this build I'm using are Adrenaline for the 7 seconds of immunity and status effects like the Fire Turrets and the Bleed. I'm using Critical Save, using Medkit during low health to increase damage resistance by 20% for 10 seconds. Combat Medic, use a Medkit near an ally to heal group members and proxies within 20 meters by 40%. So this one I think is very important to note. If you're in a team, you should always have this. So if your teammate's almost dead, you can pop them a Medkit without having to use like a booster shot or the immune station, and it will heal them instantly. Strike Back, reach low health to reduce active skill cooldowns by 20%. I have this on here, that's for the booster, and that's also for the pulse. One other thing I've been also using with this build, if you're in a team, is Triage. I've used this a lot. Heal an ally with a skill to reduce skill cooldowns by 15%. If you're trying to get your ults back a little bit quicker, if you're in a busy server and people are just killing everyone and you want to get your greens and your blues back, use this and you can get your skills back insanely fast. Now I'll go into the character sheet so you guys can see with the SMG first. 60% crit chance and 132 damage and 55% headshot damage. And the stability is 5%, that's just something a little bit extra. So this is a 60% crit chance house. You could use responsive like I said, and it'd be a little bit lower, but I wanted to have as much crit chance as I could on this build because I wanted to test that out. The weapon damage is 19,856. And I'll go into the assault rifle, which is the lightweight M4 next, so you guys can see the crit chance on it if it actually lets me. Here we go. Whoops. A little tricky. Okay, there we go. 28% crit chance and 114% damage and 87% headshot damage and 13% stability. Range is 96 feet. I'm going to get into the combat right now. Damage to elites 12%. Enemy armor damage is 24%. And the threat is negative 47%. And now the skill power 123,000. The survival ability, which is really important, the max health is 302,000 and 452,000 toughness. This would be way higher if I could have that backpack that has stamina on it, but I currently cannot get my hands on one. The armor 7,921, and the protection from elites is 30%, which is really nice if you have constant elites hitting you over and over again. The exotic damage resilience is 51%, bleed is 33%, burn is 33%, and the shock is 33%. If you want to get rid of ammo capacity, you could roll more bleed on this, I guess, if you have a little bit higher bleed resistance against Predator, but I like having a little bit more ammo since I'm always constantly fighting people and I run out constantly on a daily basis when I'm fighting manhunts or if I'm fighting rogues, or if rogues are fighting me, or the other way around. But that's about it for those things. That's really about it for the build. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope this build helped. This is just the way I have it set up currently at the moment. I will be having a few changes to this build, which will be a little bit minor, like the backpack and maybe a few extra rolls when I test this build out a little bit more. But so far, this is how I'm running it. This is how I like it. This is how it's been helping the team. But thank you guys all for watching. As always, I will catch you guys in the